Hi, this is Lou, welcome to my channel, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to screen print. So in last week's video I showed you how to take a screen and get it to the point where you exposed an image on it, and I'll put a link up here to where you can find that video if you want to see it. And in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to take a print from that screen. So here are the two prints that I made with that screen. You can see you can use different colours and print onto different paper and get different effects that way. So first I start by preparing my paper. And I like to buy paper in big sheets and then cut it down to size. That gives me a lot of flexibility and allows me to choose what size prints I want to make. In this case I'm making prints A4 size, so they fit into standard frames. So I've got two different types of paper here. The white is a paper from Fabriano, and it's really kind of quite soft and pillowy and textured. And it's still got a fairly smooth surface, so it takes the ink from the screen print nicely. And I'll put a link down below to where you can find that paper if that's something you're interested in. And to prepare that paper, I just use a straight edge, place it where I want it on the paper, and then tear it to size. And then I'm using some black paper, and this is Colour Plan by G.F. Smith, and again I'll put a link down below to where you can find that. Now the black paper doesn't tear very well, so in this case I'm using a knife just to cut it to size. So now I've got all my paper ready and it's the right size. Now what I need to do is to mix some ink. So you can buy ready mixed screen printing inks, but I like to mix my own, and I use a combination of acrylic paint and this acrylic printing medium from System 3. Now generally I use the System 3 acrylics that work really well with that medium, and you just add the colours that you like in the proportions that you like and then add in some of the medium. Now you need at least 50% medium. It brings it to the right texture, but it also slows down the drying time, so the ink won't dry in your screen. If you want to make your ink more transparent, you add more of the medium. I'm also mixing some gold ink, and I had a little tip from a friendly printmaker who told me that the Lascaux acrylic golds and silvers and metallics work really well for screen printing. So I'm using some of that, again with the System 3 medium. So if you keep your inks in an airtight container, they can last quite a while. If you've got an ink and it's a little bit stiff, you can add a bit of water and bring it back to the right consistency to print with. I think a good consistency is something like a wet cake mix, where you can put your spatula in and the paint will drip off the spatula. You want a good solid flat surface for printing on, and I've got some boards that I've cut to size. I've also got some hinge clamps, and these screw into holes that I've drilled into the boards. If you want to work onto an old table or something like that, you can drill straight into the table and put your hinge clamps on the table, but I wouldn't recommend it for your best dining table. So when the screen is clamped in place, you can raise and lower it, and it'll always go back to being in exactly the same position as before. That's going to be really helpful for your registration. I've got a piece of acetate that's bigger than the paper I want to print on, and I use some masking tape to tape it down one side. You want to create a really strong hinge, so I flip the acetate over and tape it on the other side as well. That means that I can move it backwards and forwards, and it'll always land in the same spot. I use some screen masking tape to mask around the edges of the screen. You can use this to mask any areas that you don't want to print. So you can expose two different images onto one screen and then mask off the one that you don't want to print. You want to make sure that your screen tape is well pressed down and no ink can get underneath the edges. I add a line of ink at the top of my image. and take my squeegee, and I'm going to make the first print, not onto paper, but onto the acetate that I've put underneath. You want to angle the squeegee slightly towards you and then bring it forwards in a constant motion, putting downward pressure on it, but keeping it at that slight angle. I find it really helpful if you can stop before you get to the edge of your screen. It'll just help you to keep everything nice and clean. So you're just moving this line of ink backwards and forwards over the image that you've exposed onto the screen. But if you can stop before you get to the edges of the screen, it'll really help keep your squeegee, your tools and your hands clean of any ink. So now I want to flood my screen with ink. I want to do this so that the ink that's sitting on top of the screen is really nice and wet and it's not going to dry in the mesh. So to do that I need to lift my screen up a little bit. And something like the roll of tape that I use to mask the screen is just the perfect height. So I rest the metal edge of my screen on that masking tape and that'll just keep it above the surface. And then I take my squeegee and I angle it slightly towards myself and I push that ink back across the image. You don't need to put a lot of pressure on here. You just need to make sure that everywhere the screen is open, where there's no emulsion or ink on it, that it gets a nice clear layer of ink. You want to flood the screen like this after every time you've pulled a print, and you want to do it fairly quickly because the little bits of ink that are left in your screen after you've pulled your print can dry really, really fast. Then they can block your screen and then they'll ruin the rest of your prints. So now my image is printed onto the acetate below. This is going to help because now I can slide a piece of paper underneath it and line it up. I take a couple of seconds to make sure it's nice and straight. And then I flip the acetate out of the way. And now that I know, my paper will be in the perfect place to receive the print. I lower my screen and my line of ink is at the top of the screen. Again, take my squeegee, angle it a little bit towards myself and pull it towards me. Now you'll find if you've got a print that has a lot of coverage on it, it might stick to the back of the screen. That's okay, just pull it off. And then when you've done that, you can flood your screen again. Now you can use the paper that you've prepared and take as many prints as you like. So when you've finished and you've taken as many prints as you like, you can clear up. You can remove any excess ink you have and put it in an airtight container and then save it until next time. Try and get up as much ink as you can. And then you can take your screen and wash it out. Try and remove any pieces of stubborn ink. You can leave the tape on if you want to print from this screen again. Just make sure there's no ink trap behind it. So now my screen is dried and I can print again using a different colour. So this time I'm going to print on the black paper using the gold ink. So you can leave your image exposed onto the screen for as long as you like. I've had some that I've had for years. But you can reclaim them and then expose another image onto it and start all over again. For this you'll need some stencil stripper. They come in different forms and the one I have is a liquid that you dilute with water. I just put some in a squeezy bottle and make it the right concentration. And then when I want to reclaim a screen, I spray it onto both sides of the screen and leave it for a few minutes. The emulsion that's on the screen will start to go soft. You may see it running a little bit. Now the water pressure in my flat is not very good, so I invested in a little mini power wash that helps me get the emulsion off really quickly. Now different brands of emulsion I found, some wash out more easily than others. And this one I have is particularly stubborn. But it comes out really nice and easily with a little zap from a power wash. If you've created a limited edition of prints, it's good practice to number them. So number each one and then say how many prints are in the edition. And then sign them. You can find the prints that I've printed today, along with a whole host of other ones that I've printed over lockdown and in the last few years, on my Etsy store. I'll put a link below to where you can find that. So thanks very much for watching today. I really hope that this was helpful. If you liked it, a like is always appreciated. And if you do have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. I make new art making, sewing, printmaking videos, all kind of creative stuff, new videos every week, and I look forward to seeing you in a future one. Thanks, bye.